I want to make this video because I just recently got an update that the Senate are trying to pass Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. And the Senate just recently came out and said, hey, we know that you're trying to extend bonus depreciation. We'll talk about what that is in a second, but we want to make it permanent. News alert. They want to make it permanent. So they've actually suggested, the Finance Committee for the Senate has said, we want to make this 100% permanent. It doesn't phase out. Before it was phasing out like 10% a year. Up until 2029, I think it was going to be completely phased out. So this has been this is a huge development. And I think as real estate investors, we need to be thinking about what this means for us as real estate investors, right? And then I want to share a little bit, because there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. I want to share a little bit at the end about just what real estate has done during terms of uncertainty and during times of war. And there's a couple of examples I want to give you that I think support you guys becoming even bigger real estate investors. So a cost segregation study, if you don't know what it is, it's basically a way that the government, the IRS, allows you to take a bigger depreciation. Normally you can take like 1/27th of the value of a home against your taxes, because they're like, hey, it goes down, so you can take this little tax benefit called depreciation. But bonus depreciation allows you to get a lot of that faster and sooner. So if you make a bunch of money this year and you need a bigger benefit, then you can actually go ahead and take a bigger benefit and offset your taxes so you don't pay taxes, right? Now, if you're a real estate professional, then you can take that against your active income. If you're not a real estate professional, then you can take that depreciation against your passive income, right? And so how do you do this? Well, you have to go and you do something called a cost segregation study. The website I use is called costsegeasy.com. And for a few $100, you go in and you do a study of the home and you figure out what in this home can be depreciated faster. And some things, instead of taking it over 27 years, you depreciate over 5 years or 10 years or even shorter sometimes. Or you depreciate it right off the bat, right? If you're putting furniture or things in the home, sometimes that stuff can be depreciated year one. But once you get that study done, you hand that to your accountant or bookkeeper and they figure out where to put that on your tax returns to make sure that you have as much of that as possible. Now, one little hack I would say for you guys, it's kind of an advanced hack. But my accountant came to me the other day and said, Sam, I can use the depreciation, because you build up depreciation. Depreciation doesn't expire. You can pass depreciation forward and forward and forward, right? So if I don't use it all, I can use what I want to and I can not use what I want to this year for my taxes. And one of the things that my accountant is doing that I think is incredibly smart, and frankly, this is not talked about in a lot of real estate circles. Like I literally have heard this from nobody, even the big gurus in real estate, other than my accountant. He said, Sam, I don't want to take all depreciation so your tax return is at zero. He's like, I don't want you to pay zero in taxes. I want you to pay all the lower tax brackets. I'm only going to shave off the highest tax brackets. So I'm only going to take just enough depreciation to where you don't pay the highest tax brackets. And I thought that was brilliant. He's like, you're going to pay tax. You're going to pay $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 every year in taxes, but you ain't paying the highest tax brackets. You're just paying all the lower brackets. And that way I save up depreciation for where it's going to make the biggest impact. And I think that's a hack that all of us should be using. If you've never heard of that before, then you should be using that. I even had a guru tax accountant come to me and say, oh, you could have paid zero. And I was like, I don't want to pay zero because I want to save up that depreciation, because that depreciation is very valuable. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions about this or you guys have thoughts on this, please jump in the comments below. But what this means, I think, for us guys, if 100% bonus depreciation becomes the standard, then I think it really means that real estate is just more attractive. It'll attract people, not just for cash flow. So you'll see people buying real estate assets that don't have cash flow, but they need it for the tax benefit, right? So those of us that are in co-living and these other asset classes that actually have cash flow, man, we're going to be golden. The value of our property will be way higher than what it's done, right? Because if someone's willing to pay money for an asset that's not cash flowing and they're willing to do that just for tax benefits, with this, it brings that back. It brings that strategy back. The other thing I'll say is, when I talked to an accountant one time, I said, what's the secret to having, she got to see a bunch of people's tax returns, and tax returns are the real. I don't care what you say you make. I don't care what you gross. Tax returns show me what you're making. And I asked an accountant that worked with people that all made 8, 9 figures. I said, hey, what do you see as the commonalities of the richest people in the world? And she said, well, the commonalities of those people are they have some sort of cash cow spitting out cash that they then feed into real estate, which then allows them to pay no taxes or less taxes. And then from there, it allows them to have more cash to invest in real estate. And it becomes this, which then allows them to pay less in taxes. And it becomes this virtuous cycle, up. And they just get richer and richer and richer and richer and richer. And this just continues. My accountant came to real estate and said, Sam, you got to buy real estate this year. Otherwise, you're going to owe the government multiple six figures. Like, oh my gosh. Okay. So I say all that to say the bonus depreciation makes real estate even more valuable in that sense, which I think is really, really important. And all of us should be considering that as part of our portfolio. The last point I'll make about real estate rising is that, real estate a lot of times goes up in times of war or in uncertainty. I throw up some statistics here because I wanted to share this with you. World War II, U.S. house prices surged approximately 60% between 1942 and 1947. That was an annual gain of 8.9%. A lot of times war can make materials and labor way more expensive. So to build houses now becomes way more expensive. And then tariffs obviously add to that, or deportations can add to that, right? So now it's more expensive to build, which means the house that's already built is worth even more, right? Because the replacement value is just insanely high to build a house to replace this. A lot of people are going to go out and they're just going to buy one, right? I thought that was cool. Now, after World War II in Tokyo and in Japan, like land prices obviously soared because they were like, hey, war's over. We're not going to get bombed. We can actually have agricultural land and we need it now, right? After 1982 to 1985, the Lebanon War, property values rose 28% in the first year post-conflict, followed by another 16% in the next year. So a lot of times when wars decline, and people realize, obviously, if you're in the war zone, that's not good. But if you're not in a war zone, it can be really helpful. And then following the first Gulf War, 90 to 91, real estate in Israel jumped over 30% the year after the war. And these are just a couple of examples of how I believe that uncertainty, especially in the markets or with all these other things, drives people into harder assets. And even during war and post-wars, when these things come to an end, you even see this huge surge in real estate as well. These are all things that I'm thinking about when I'm building my real estate portfolio, and hopefully this is helpful for you too.